Okay, we are recording.
All right, I'd like to call this monthly meeting of South Woodley Park Recreation District, March 20th, 2024 to order. First on the agenda, do we have public comment? I'm assuming we do. We have some guests.
What's my time over there?
You got up to 3 minutes.
Okay. What I'll do is then just hand it around. You can, because I'll just hit the high points of that. My name's Barry Hayward, and I represent Whidbey Island pickleball and a lot of players here on the South Whidbey part of the island. And I wanted to use this opportunity to remind people. Some of you are new since I think I last talked to maybe in long ago it's 2020 and pre-pandemic. I think it might have been pre-pandemic.
Right, Jeremy.
And maybe during the pandemic as well. But to remind you where we've been and where we think we're going to go with your help. In 2016, 6 of us started playing in Useless Bay, and after inviting friends, which we were allowed to do at that time, and finding some other people, we were able to support your guys' initiative that Carrie helped start at the community center in 2018. And we provided volunteers for hosting that and for doing introductory classes for people. And next in mid-April, we will be doing the 25th introductory class in that time. And our waiting list is usually bigger than our 10, we only put a certain number of participants. That same year in 2018, you guys allowed us to line court on the lower parking lot at the sports complex. And that got used really quickly and well. And so we added a second one. And then the pandemic hit and we added 3 and 4. And that was one of the few public recreation opportunities for people during those 2 years from the community center was closed. So thanks to you guys, that really helped. And we kept growing during that time. And that also pointed out that we really do lack some public recreational facilities. Even if we could have used them at the time. In 2020, we gave you a statement thanking you for your support and encouraging you to look at construction permanent pickleball courts. We had 90 players sign that back then. In 2022, you guys responded, and in a couple of weeks in March of that year, we were able to get over 80 pledges for $50,000 to support your application for state grants, which, as you know, subsequently got approved last summer. So the growth of pickleball in recent years has generated numbers that, quite frankly, seem incomprehensible and incredible, as in not incredible to some extent. But we have seen that and experienced it as well, and we believe that growth is going to continue and be long-lasting. So from 2 sessions a week in 2018 at the community center, you're supporting 19 sessions a week at the community center, and a maximum of 18 participants in each. If you ask Sky, I think he'd probably say depends, but they're probably around 12 to 14, 15 people in all those. And more people are playing in small groups at different locations all over South Whidbey. There's probably a dozen private courts that are being used, several of them built in the last year. So from a handful of people playing in 2016, our emails that goes out every month to more than 350 people, and that I know that doesn't include a bunch of people that are playing because they come up and ask to be added to it every month. So my purpose today, not only remind us where we've been, but to thank you for your continuing support, but to also continue to encourage you to look at the future, the very near future. Almost every time I see people at pickleball playing sessions, which is most days, Someone asked me about the status of the court construction project, what it will entail, and what happened. So we are overjoyed to see that you are considering the approval of contract for design company for the public courts project today. And we urge you to pursue the design construction, very high priority to complete in 2024. And I think this is good news all over the place. And thank you for your service to the community and helping keep us active.
Thank you.
We appreciate the hard work you guys put in on, the project kind of from the very beginning with us and meeting us in the middle, because, the parking lot's not a perfect place to play, as we know, and the middle school is not a perfect place to play. But you guys are making the best of it, and we got a thriving program. And I also want to say how much I appreciate you guys working with our staff, especially Sky, but Terry, Brian, we've had mixed experiences sometimes in the past with groups because access is always a challenge, timing and scheduling and all that kind of thing. And you guys have done, I think, a great service to the community as a whole and to us by meeting us there in the middle and compromising and understanding. And so thank you for that, for your leadership in that.
And you guys have great staff, so it's been a pleasure working with them. Well, yeah.
And I would agree,
Everything
Gary,
has its growing up.
your stewardship with it has been crowded. I mean, from the get-go, hung in there. Sometimes people have great ideas where, the rubber meets the road is where you hang in there and you continue pushing it forward. I would say this, know that, the board is cognizant of that and cognizant of where pickleball lies in the world today. So thank you.
I appreciate it, and in great respects, and you probably experience the same thing. Sometimes it's just a matter of trying to hang on, because we didn't, we expected it to grow with time.
Crazy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very.
No other public comments?
Okay. Is there other public comment?
Oh, no, she's for,
Pardon?
she's here for me.
I couldn't.
She's for later.
Okay.
She's an agenda.
And we have somebody on, don't we?
We have several, but they're all from there.
Okay.
Carrie and, yeah, I think he's.
All right, then. Thank you, Barry. And Barry, you don't have to hang out. You can leave if you like.
I like to see you guys in action. I'm going to hang around for a little bit.
Okay.
I've been busy.
Let's see, it's public comment. Has everyone read the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 21st, 2024 regular meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's been a motion made to approve the minutes in a second. If there isn't any further discussion, I would move that we approve the minutes from the 2/21 of 24 meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Jake, I.
Eric, aye. Okay, approval of the minutes is passed. On to the treasurer's report. Assuming that
Yeah.
didn't matter.
Yep. So as you saw in the email, because of the time bandwidth consumed by the audit, we don't have the full year projection that we normally have. So we're using the P&L with some commentary and I added a section to talk about the fund balances. So hopefully this is acceptable as a report for this month, and Carrie and I are talking about how we modify it for future months. So couple of highlights there. The total income, this is for January, February, cumulative. So total revenue, which is I consider to be an accurate picture of revenue year to date, is roughly 14,000 favorable end of February. So 3%, roughly 3%. So if you scroll down now to expenses, you'll see a couple of highlights there. If you go to the bottom of the expense calculation, one will have a page more. Yeah, so you'll see our net shows 39,000 unfavorable in expenses, which nets to 25,000 unfavorable with the 14K favorable in revenue. But the revenue or the expense item 6-6010, which you see there in the half page up, which is the ARC expenses, is only unfavorable because of the rough nature of the budget estimate that was done based on their projections. And in the end, that's going to net to zero because we've authorized the exact amount that we had to spend in the SD and DD phases of the project with SWPRD. So with ARC and their subs. So that's going to net to zero. So if you scroll down now, you can see that in my summary. So that net P&L is 35 net of that 60K, artificiality is really 35,000 favorable as of end February. So I think that's an accurate characterization of the net financial picture. And, the notes that I have in there, reference why that conclusion was reached. You can see, so first, any questions on that or feedback on that before we talk about the fund balances? Okay. Jake, anything?
No, Matt, thanks for breaking it down. That made sense. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And then you can see the fund balances section because that's not covered in the P&L report. So the reserve objective was set based on, remember, we set the reserve at 25% of the following year's expenses. It's a little bit of a disconnect, if you want to call it that. If you look at this year's expenses, they would drive a higher reserve fund account because of the ARC design expenses that are in this year's budget that will not be in next year's budget. So this year's budget, expense budget are roughly 2.6 million, which would drive roughly a $700,000 reserve fund. Next year's budget's 1.995, which is driving the reserve to about a level of about 493K. So we set the level at 493K, which is per the financial principles that we follow. And there was a transfer in January made to get to that level, but we made a mistake and transferred an extra 32,000 into the fund. And it actually netted to about 41,000. So what you see in January or February, we pulled that back out. So there's a $32,000 transfer into the fund, into the reserve fund in January, and then a $32,000 transfer out of the reserve fund in February. So net, we're sitting at 502,000 in the reserve versus the goal of 493. And unless there's an objection, we'll just carry that. 10K favorable, not move any further money around. The only other kind of vagary of financial transactions in February is that the county gave us $22,000 error. It's not shown here because it's in the county fund reporting numbers. Gave us a roughly $22,000 error between our ending balance in January with the county and our starting balance in February.
Higher or lower?
Higher. So we assume for Carrie's calculations and the transfers in and out of investments, we assume the conservative $22,000 less. So there may be a $22,000 surplus that's covered that would be in our favor sometime this month or the beginning of next month. But so the conservative decision was to account for it in the with that 22K as an error, an unfavorable error. So that's where we set the level starting balance in February or in March at that level. In February at that level. So anyway, that 22,000 error that we conservatively accounted for, you don't see here. It's because it's in the monthly fund reporting from the county. So no impact To us, the only impact is we are, as a result, in our normal monthly movement of money in and out of investments, are pulling an extra 22,000 out to pay vouchers and expected vouchers for the first half of next month. And then that money will come back to us and will go back into investments if they end up realizing that it was an error on their behalf. So, and the fund transfer out of investments for M&O this month is 72,000. It would have been 50,000. So no net impact to the full year. My belief is the county is going to figure out that it was their mistake, but more to come there. Well, I'll wrap that up next month's report.
I'll say, throw in too, that was another reason for the delay of the report, was that when that was discovered, it took a couple days of Carrie emailing back and forth with the county before we could get Matt when he needed. And of course, thank you to Matt and Carrie for scrambling at the last minute and creating a report that's functional and accurate. And that was a lot of last minute scrambling to make it happen. So thank you, Matt, for putting this all together.
Any further questions? If not, we'll go to the voucher list.
Seems like it happens at least once a year.
Yeah, more than that, unfortunately. And in looking at, as part of the audit review, looked at some of those email exchanges just to see what's the traceability and how, for me, understanding, the level of detail and rigor that they apply to it. And it's clear that a lot of times the flow of transactions exceeds the capability of their process and their system to keep a real-time track. So it's not, I don't get the sense that they can't catch it and catch up to it, but we play and their other accounts play a critical role in alerting them to these things. And Carrie's diligence in pointing out, here's the exact difference and letting them work on it. I think without that dynamic, the county might get off track and not recover it. And it may come up in an audit, at the county level, because state's auditing the county, obviously. So, yeah, so hats off to Carrie for keeping, like both hands on the wheel and making sure the county's in the loop, because it'll get caught. I think it'll catch up. Maybe not in the same quarter, but certainly this year. So, yeah, it's not ideal, but it's better.
Like you said, it all ends up at the end of the year, right? So it'll all catch up.
Yeah.
Vouchers, our new voucher format, you guys can see, just a quick reminder on these voucher formats. Carrie added the E on the end, those are electronic payments. And then on the status on the right column, if it says open, those are ones that were added since your email packet on Friday. So you see there was another ARC payment. And we knew there was going to be some sub work that was just delayed in getting to us. That was one. Nothing else that really jumps out. Paydays, credit card payment, their diamond rentals, just to see some paying for body costs. And other open ones beyond payroll ones, and the building lease. So nothing that jumped out. We had a little bit of work done on one of the trucks, going to be battery. We actually, our new fleet technician, Jacob, isn't here tonight. Actually jumped right on it. He was able to get under the car and identify the truck and identify a couple issues that needed to listen. He paid off pretty quick. Yeah. Other than that, I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that really jumps out. Pacifica, the $1,700 from Pacifica was for reviewing one of our contracts that we had to go through, which was incredibly valuable because they caught several things that was in recommendations.
The other one I would highlight is the campground payment. So this is the month for the annual campground loan payment.
Oh, yes, good catch.
So, just because that's a current topic with the open project and the county approvals and the grant funding. And so that's a level loan repayment. So that's something to expect in future Februarys or Marches.
And then it was pretty much the standard stuff, nothing that jumped out, the CPA work that's working towards the audit. That's about it. The grand total at the bottom, 113,257.66.
Any other questions for? Hey, Kenny, questions?
No, no questions.
Okay. All right, so no questions. I'll make a motion to approve the March vouchers in an amount of 113,257.66.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion has been made to approve the voucher of $113,257.66. There is no further discussion. All those in favor, all those approving of the voucher, please signify by saying aye.
Mr. I.
That I.
Jake, I.
Eric, aye. The voucher has been approved. Staff report.
All right, recreation programs report, Sky and Tom are both on our baseball night in Sultan, so they both, are at the high school game. But their reports, Sky is working with the Ultimate Group, trying to make, they've got a really large and growing drop-in program that isn't really, it's just, they just show up. So we're working to organize this as something that we advertise, and it's kind of under our umbrella, so we help schedule it. We're not looking to charge a fee. It would just be a Parks and Rec program, free drop-in. So Sky's working with them. I think it's a lot cleaner, so we know when they are, we'll communicate better with them. So that's good. Great basketball season last night was the last night of games. Sky just did an amazing job. I think it was a really great season. Sky is meeting with a new instructor to talk about a variety of dance and fitness classes. This is an instructor that Matt met, actually, I think at the pool celebration party.
Yep. Yeah.
They're actually meeting and doing training facility tomorrow. She's going to look and operate a bunch of new dance and fitness classes at the community center starting in May. Real excited about her. She seems like a really great fit. Little League's going, spring scheduling in general is going. Our summer activity guide is out April 18th. So we're getting a lot of calls, particularly on water activities. People are calling about swimming and sailing and all that stuff. So we're putting that communication out. We're encouraging people who do call in to get into our email distribution list, because as soon as we have firm dates, we're going to be blasting it out that way. Chum run, that isn't on the list, but he did have a chum run meeting yesterday with the High Eye group. The chum run will not be in May. Last year it was in September. They're looking at options as a group. They're looking at options maybe. They're talking about trying to bring back a kids' day event, either in lieu of or in addition to a race. Trying to figure out, since it's not us, this is just one of the players. And it may be looking at options farther north where the majority of the money is being spent. So we don't know. For now, the only thing I'm reporting is it won't be in there.
Okay.
So if there's a traditional chum run, it would be later in the fall.
I had a question actually that related to the P&L. So it looks like the triathlon's coming in a little low so far.
I don't know. I don't know compared to. I haven't heard any concerns from Carrier Sky. But we did get notice from the county that they're going to be doing asphalting on Saratoga Road there, which is one of our main streets, which was a huge issue. So Sky got on the phone with the county and they agreed to move the project up so it would be finished before the triathlon. So I don't know how, we looked at maps and we weren't sure how we reroute that.
Yeah, so I mean, they chip seal one of those roads every year,
Yes.
every other year. They did Brooksville Road last year. And it was, I mean, the worst case we had was, I think one year was within a week of the race.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I said the county, but I meant the city of Langdon. So they were very gracious and understanding, and they're working with us so that it doesn't impact the race. Then again, not on the agenda, but while we're talking about this, facilities and grounds, new parts fleet technician Jacob Meyer. I referred to him earlier. He started a couple of weeks ago. He's, you know, he's still getting acclimated, but a great asset. You can just hear it in Tom's voice, the happiness of having that extra person when it does things. I mentioned Little League's up. There was a late winter storm up, cleaned up, which is unusual this time of year. So this guy's been out there working on the trails and cleaning some extra debris that we usually do this time of year. And then, and I'll talk about this later, but we've been working together with Tom and Sky to talk about field policies. We'll talk about that in a second. My report, the 2-year financial audit is underway.
Question about facilities and grounds. So last month, I passed along somebody asking for another bike rack.
Vibrant, yes.
That was out there for the place.
Yes, I think the recommendation Tom had was to put it up at the skate park, not at the community park. Because if it was needed, feedback I got was maybe we could look at a portable option, which in other words, we could try it down by the community park, see if it works. It's not getting a lot of use. So he's looking at it. So that's been taken care of. If, financial audit's underway, responding to a lot of inquiries. We're getting pretty close to the end of the point. Carrie in particular has done amazing work, responding to everything and everyone. We're expecting this part of the audit to be done next week, according to the auditor. This will be followed by 2 weeks where it takes the auditor to compile their actual report. After the end of the report, they give us their findings, which is the issues that they want us to respond to. And they give us 2 to 3 weeks after that to respond to the issues. So where we thought we'd be done with the audit, hopefully by March, now it looks like it's going to be probably early May, which is fine. It is what it is. The entrance conference for the auditor, as I sent out to you guys, is this Friday. Please let me know if you're planning to come. It's not required. It's not. I think Matt implied he'll be there, which is great. It's a virtual thing. I know you're working out.
Well, and just that, don't lose the irony that the entrance conference happens at the conclusion of the audit.
Yeah. There's a possibility it could get bumped if they don't feel they have everything they need by then, but I'm hoping they. Yeah, because we've been giving them everything they could possibly want as quickly as it possibly can get to them. So they've got really nice people. So and it's been trying, but it's been a good team effort so far. I mentioned before we have both of our staff. We have Jacob started, but we also have transition. We have Shelby on check with us. Shelby is our new administrative assistant too. This is her 3rd day with us. Shelby is local here. She went down. She graduated from the Island Academy down the road. A diehard horse person with a horse that she loves dearly with the name that I always forget.
Soletta.
Thank you, Soletta. So in 3 days, it's amazing what a difference it makes. Just have that extra set of hands, an extra person in the office. So I asked Shelby to be here tonight so you guys can say hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. You know,
Nice to have you.
Welcome, Shelby.
Thank you.
So for you, okay. Yeah, so you guys are in the office, she'll be the friendly face that you see. Harry's hidden back in the back room now, at her choice. Yeah, we're gonna be moving out of these offices soon. So anyways, I did also say, because Shelby has to be here by early in the morning, that once we got through this part, she can excuse herself and call it a night. So thank you for sticking around.
Hey, Brett.
Oh, Carrie, yes.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, I wanted you to know just how much help and difference Shelby has made already, helping chase down figures for the audit and just jumping in. And so I'm feeling really optimistic about the difference she's going to make with us. Me in particular, I admit.
Hey.
Oh, thank you. And you came up in my audit interview.
How many?
You weren't even hired yet.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the morning.
And to answer your question, Krista, we're at 33 registrants individual on a capacity of 152.
Okay.
So, and
I was just looking at the
budget.
P&L,
Yep.
the budget, and there was a certain amount budgeted. And we were lower than that, but I also didn't know if we announced on the same dates. That's just a monthly.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep, that's a great question. Do you have that Gary, do you know that off the top of your head?
This page,
It's a good question, like where are we relative? Because I couldn't tell you.
we're down budget wise, but
Do
again,
you feel like we're getting the amount of triathlon people we normally would by this time of the year?
I would say that I would say we're a little low. I didn't look at, comparing the bodies, I guess, compared to last year's, but usually my estimates are based on past,
Right.
uh, expenditure revenues. So we're lower than, but it's also, we're still kind of early on, but yeah, it's hard to say.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Tom and I's things are overlapping a little bit. I'll say, we met with, and I say we, Tom, Sky, and I met with the Southwood Youth Soccer Club. We're just gonna be working on our soccer team policies and really trying to bring those back to you guys. You two at the field committee will meet with you guys and send those to you guys before we come back to the board. Particularly winter, I'm finding, it's just really challenging. There's a lot of and the soccer club agrees, there's just a lot of communication coming from a lot of sources in the soccer community. When there's only 2 or 3 teams playing, they get very frustrated by not being allowed to use fields that they want. They don't understand it. They want great explanation. It takes an immense amount of time. It really takes a shocking amount of time. The Sky's fine, much more complex. So and working with the soccer club, they agree that we just need to put some stronger policies and their guidelines in place. We worked really hard to make that field beautiful, and I think everyone agrees it is. Some of the bigger teams don't like it as a game field. They think the sidelines are too narrow. So we're just going to work on trying to make our communication policy so we're not spending all this time next year. Soccer club agrees because they're also spending a lot of time dealing with a lot of conversations. Once we have some policies that we think are a good idea, we'll send them through you guys. And then if we, as part of our policies, we work on this here, we can bring it back to the whole board and make the most of it. So it's just.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a new issue. Like, our hope was in making that field available in the winter that we would reduce the amount of conversation, negotiation, relining, moving, so yeah, that to me is unfortunate if that hasn't taken the pressure off that we hoped it would.
It's the coaches, not the club. And that's what I keep coming back to. We need to get our communication streamlined with just the club. We have an agreement with the club, that representatives, the people we talk to. But Sky keeps receiving comments from all these coaches that want to play differently and they want to talk about it. They want explanations. And it's just exhausting. And you're right. It's not from what I understand.
I think the approach of front loading it though, and being more proactive with it, that's something that hasn't always happened. Meaning letting them know way ahead of time, this is what we're setting up, as opposed to when the season hits, now let's try to organize it.
Well, I mean, we set in place, when this came to a head, we had a coach, we had, police were in the park.
Yeah.
And we had, a response that dragged out over several months. And then one of the things we put in place was exactly that, was that, the shoulder of each season is the rub, right? It's September, October, and then it's, March, April, May, it's right in this time frame. And we said that we would have, and we've done them pretty much, since then, trying to get people to show up. User groups to show up is probably the biggest challenge, but at those 2 times of each season, to do what you're talking about, to say, okay, we got this new field over here, and then let them say, well, it's too narrow for game fields for these teams. Okay, well, how are we going to accommodate that? Well, we're going to keep one field in the main park line for, big kid game field, and we're not going to use it for anything else. Are we all good with that? That kind of conversation. So to me, like if it's you're still getting coaches like just complaining directly to staff and dragging the whole organization down, I think that it's not working.
We can do better. One thing the soccer club's doing, and it's interesting, is they're looking at the community center soccer field. They're looking at funding opportunities to
Ask you about that.
to see if they can take that over as a soccer club and make that a field that they operate as an option.
It's a great option. I met with Con and
Oh, yeah.
Brian McCleary down there And I know that history of that field really, really well. They pumped a ton of money into it. And that is a probably one of the best fields on the island.
Interesting.
And it's not
talking
being
about
used.
the football field?
Yeah, because there was a leak and for years it plagued the middle school. They repaired it. They came in, did all the drainage, such as needs to be. I think I was gonna ask that question about Ultimate. Where is Ultimate playing then? Drop it.
Droplet Ultimate right now is playing back up here. But yeah, it's up at the sports
But
complex.
potentially that would be a place that they could play there. I know the Ultimate groups have played there for years.
They played there when the weather was closed here.
Right.
That's a
It's
comp.
just a good use of facilities.
And the rabbits are fine. From my understanding, there was a
Correct.
rabbit.
That was also
They kept
a
that.
large issue, yeah. I mean, it's prime for use.
Yeah, it's all good discussions. I think our relationship with the soccer club is positive. I think everyone's on the same page. I think it's just about communication. It's just about streamlining the communication so that the 30 people aren't talking, but 2 or 3 are talking. So we'll get there. We're gonna work on it. We're gonna come up with some new ideas, send it to you guys. And then the last thing, which was kind of fun, is King 5 did come out last Wednesday, and they did a news story on the new info that Trusts and Trails. From my understanding, the news story said it's one of those feel good ones, not the nightly news, so it's gonna come out like early April. So yeah, so when that comes out, I'll let you know. So that a nice beach. It just looks so beautiful up there. So, and that is staff report.
All right. Moving on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports? Anybody have anything for the good of the order?
I don't have a report, but, on lakes, and I haven't looked at it yet, which is why I haven't sent it around, but I learned that, somebody who had been working for Island County Department of Natural Resources did their master's thesis on Lone Lake. And what's going on there.
Oh, like the health of the lake.
Yeah. And they have now moved on from Island County, are working through the Puget Sound Partnership. However, it came up somehow in the meeting, and so I went digging and I found it and I downloaded it, and I will send it to you.
Yeah.
Brian and Eric.
Yeah, I'd like to look at it.
I just haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but
Is this years ago or fairly?
no, for really recently.
Wow, great.
Yeah, really recently, like last 2 years. Something like that, yeah.
This is probably a good time for the aquatic center. I want to pull up, Brian's got a little PowerPoint I did. We got a letter, Marty and I met with, a couple representatives of this 501c3 called Kicking Gas. And talking about the aquatic center and its footprint, environmental footprint. And we talked about, in particular, about the solar plus storage grant that we won for design of they call it solar plus storage. So a voltaic array and a battery storage system as designed, and the state program that is supporting is they call the resilient power grid. So you're trying to develop resilience in the power system at public facilities, retrofit, new construction, and part of it is for those facilities to be able to service the community in times of extended power outage. So 3 to 5 day kind of power outage as part of county emergency preparedness. So our application for the grant went in with a support letter from Eric Brooks, County Emergency Management Director, saying we support this facility's grant application based on it becoming part of their comprehensive or their emergency management plan. So that's the genesis of this. If you scroll, so this is they call it the multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan. Says, there's a lot of risk factors to our power resilience, and they create this, they section the plan in what they call emergency support functions. One of those is number 6, called mass care and shelter. And you look in that part of the plan and it lists places people could go in different parts of the island or different parts of Island County during an extended, some kind of a environmental crisis or natural disaster, extended power outage. And so what they did is they penciled us that the grant application support letter said we will use this facility will be written into ESF 6. So, and that means we need power. So it's a place that the county would come, we would shut down the pool side and we would just power the building, and it would be a place that the county could distribute emergency services, food, medical, water, whatever the case may be. So this, when we did the framework of what's, what is the need, this is some data about the frequency of extended duration power outage events. You can see this is trend over time. There's county specific, this is nationwide, county specific data. Eric Brooks and County Emergency Management is working with PSC. They don't have good data yet, but this is just to frame the fact that these events, weather related and non-weather related events, have been generally trending up in the last 2 decades. So the grant program, we got $100,000 to design this system, battery storage system plus photovoltaic array. And so that money will be spent as part of the finishing up the design development phase with ARC. And then the second phase of this grant program is to apply for the cost of the actual components. So the array itself, battery storage system itself, the electronic system, the electrical system, inverter, the electronic control system, all that total cost can be applied for in phase 2 of the grant. Once you are awarded phase 1, you're an automatic candidate for phase 2. So we're in a short list of people who can apply for phase 2.
When is,
As soon as phase 1 is complete, we can apply for phase 2. So that means sometime this summer, we'll be able to apply for phase 2. It's clear to me in my review of the details that the state didn't understand clearly the cost of the battery storage systems that are required to provide the kind of resilience that they want. And so they were talking to us about, a system cost of around $500,000. For $500,000, you get 20 minutes of resilience. Turn off the light, turn off the grid. Average out where we are in the day with the photovoltaic array. Just to give you a quick snapshot on that, we had sized the maximum system you can put as a non-utility on a facility is 100 kilowatts. The math on the sun angle in our facilities, we get about 48% output. So instead of 100 kilowatts, we're going to get 48 kilowatts when the sun is shining and cloudless sky, everything's great. So that's 20 minutes factoring in the array giving us power. We get 48 kilowatts. The steady state demand of the building is about 125. So the array kicking out full power cannot run the building. So we need a battery to back it up or something else. So there's a generator in this calculation, and that's where you'll see it. If you want 6 hours of battery resilience, you end up with an $800,000 battery, and this will be bigger. Keep going. 12 hours is a $1.6 million system, and if you said 3 days, which is what the county gave us an objective, it's a $10 million battery. So this is something, like I said, that the state, I don't think, understood the nature of resilience in a grid when they're talking about this battery storage infrastructure. So what you see here, the only practical way to provide that is with a genset, either diesel or natural gas or liquid petroleum. LP. So, and the cost of that to run is roughly $65K. And to run it for 3 days needs 1,500 gallons in fuel. And so that infrastructure, you can see, can provide their resilience. The downside is it's a hospital powered genset. So keep going, I'll show you. So what in the conversation with King Yaz, what I laid out with Marty was that the only practical technology, given the cost of the storage system, is a generator. The most pollution efficient, non-polluting generator is under the classification of EPA's classification, what's called Tier 4 final standards. And you can see the levels of reduction from the. Yeah, so you end up with a very small nitric oxide is in particular and CO2, but nitric oxide and or CO are the pollutants of concern. But this Tier 4 final type of generator is still in that cost of 65,000 or thereabouts for the size we need. It also offers the ability to run on non-fossil fuel gases. So they can run on what's known as biogas or syngas, which come from biologic sources, not from fossil fuel sources.
Are there any ready sources of those? For
Yeah,
here?
it's not, there is in Washington State and in Allen County, like biogas typically comes from like a bioreactor. If you have a wastewater treatment plant sitting here, you could be taking biogas, creating biogas off of the organic reaction that's happening in the wastewater treatment plant.
Mhm.
So that's one thing I asked the kicking gas folks is help us understand what we could do with the alternate fuel sources because we got time to work on it, right? What I shared with them was this is for you to have a rough idea of what the pollution impact of this is. So you have to run your generator 30 minutes a month at full load to maintain it as an emergency power supply system as a valid backup. And roughly running it for half an hour a month is the equivalent of 15 passenger cars running for 30 minutes. So just in terms, which if you look at the grand scheme of similar systems, it says very small pollution impact. So that kind of encapsulates what we need to do. If you look, go ahead one more. So
And I'm assuming that's with your average gas. That's clearly
yes. Yeah,
plant based.
So and those really don't impact the pollutant output of the generator, whether you're running it off LP or syngas or biogas. It's all roughly the same. It's just the fossil fuel demand. Are you taking fossil fuel up, out of the earth? So the last two slides are, what if we just had 10 million and we just put a huge battery in and got rid of that? There's trade-offs with that too, right? Most folks are aware there's an environmental impact of current battery technology, lithium-ion technology. These are minerals that are extracted at high cost to the environment, and there's disposal risks of a lot of the primary chemicals used in lithium-ion technology. So it is no panacea to say let's just find 10 million and get a huge battery and be done with it and eliminate the gas generator. The other last slide is there a way to pollute less? And the way of the future looks like it's running that same generator off of hydrogen, which I interviewed a couple of Atlas Copco and Mitsubishi, a couple of generator manufacturers who have hydrogen generation in their portfolio. The problem with it right now is the cost of H2 storage. Most hydrogen storage systems run at about 300 bar, which is 10,000 PSI. So it's a heavy requirement to store it. And the cost of the storage system for 3 days of resilience looks like it's also right now today in that kind of $10 million range. So the generator is inexpensive, but to store the hydrogen is really expensive. And you can't generate enough hydrogen. So you can use hydrolyzers to generate hydrogen from water, but you can't keep up with the demand to run the generator with a hydrolyzer in today's technology. So this is a future state. And if the generator itself is 65K to buy now, and that that LP infrastructure is inexpensive, a future state where something like hydrogen technology becomes available and the generator is 100,000 and we can go for a state grant associated with pollution hazard reduction. I think, and that's what I laid out in, at least in my opinion, with the kicking gas folks, is that, there is a future state where you get to zero emissions. and hydrogen looks like the path. It's just not today. So plan into the facility that we have LP generator that can run on alternate fuels.
Mhm.
That is the best pollution standard that the EPA has to date. And then pave the way for at least keep vision of and stay engaged on something that can get us to zero emissions.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I just wanted to frame that up. We have this letter. And what I encourage Kick and Gas to write us this letter because it will help us in anything we do. Like if we, find this technology is subject to a grant, we're going to need stakeholder support like we got for kickball. So I told them I appreciated that and that we would use it to help us get to that kind of end state. So anyway.
That's awesome. That was really well explained,
Thank you.
educational. We all want to get there. It's just
Yeah.
the route getting there is difficult. We're not quite there yet.
Right. Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. That was really informative.
Okay, welcome. Yeah, so if you look at the drawings for the aquatic center, you'll see this battery spot for the battery storage system, there's a spot for the LP generator and then the solar array on the roof. Last point. So this one thing that they told us, we learned from the meeting, is that there's a possibility we could double the size of the array on the roof and not be considered a utility because of some exemption waiver that we could seek because we only get half of the output from the array.
That would be great.
So we would put, and the roof is sized that we could hold 200 kilowatts of generating power, knowing we'd only get 96 out of it in that scenario. That would just mean we would ask for $400,000 in the state grant instead of $200,000. It's roughly $2 a watt to buy the array. So anyway, so there's a chance we could put twice as big array on the roof. And that would then give us 96 and it would reduce the demand. It would let the battery run longer and we wouldn't turn on the generator.
Yeah.
So,
Are they following up to try to get more?
so they connected us with a guy at Snohomish County PUD who's the expert in this. And so when we get back online with ARC,
Mhm.
we're gonna put that back in the mix that we want that maximum generating capacity put in the design and just, it's not additional cost of building because it's in this grant pipeline. So that's how we'll account for it is we'll just have an arc, put it on the roof.
Okay.
So.
Any more committee reports, Ben? Okay. Moving on to unfinished business, comprehensive plan programs. Right?
Just a couple quick lake updates. The new signage for the lake properties that more clearly identifies our role at these locations. Actually ordered them yesterday. So the actual probably in place by late March, early April. We're just taking our logo off of a lot of the signs that make it look like our park. Then we will add a sign at some point saying park making myself or something, giving us, letting people know. We're not trying to stop people from calling it the signage. It's just very made it look like it was our park and that this was,
Any coordination from the other agencies that have signage at the lake to add, remove, improve?
the Department of Fish and Wildlife, they said they're in the process of evaluating all their signages. So they have a few older signs that they're looking at. And then he gave me, or at least gave me authorization to use their logo, so I was able to put their logo, the signs each step are. So if it says no parking here, it should be the Department of Fish and Wildlife saying no parking, this is their property. So it's just cleaner, the signs will look good, they're nicer, and it'll be cleaner for the public to know, they don't get frustrated. Also, I reached out the other day to the contact who's very responsive with the Department of Fish and Wildlife about the gangplank and the concrete. He said that they're still working with the HPA, which are the hydraulic project people, that just to get their approval. I was out there yesterday, or the day before yesterday. And it's still there. I just kind of walked it. It's still, I'm glad they're taking care of it. So they're going to I don't think they've made a decision yet, rather than taking the entire dock out, or rather than just dealing with the game playing and concrete. But the update is there really isn't an update. I guess
Really like that done.
before it gets hot. I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed. And as far as the campground update, I think I like to say that because we have new business on the campground, so instead of talking about it twice, yeah, it's like to push that into the new business topic. We'll talk about it one time. The end of the comprehensive plans.
All right. So under new business, aquatic recreation center on resolution.
Sure, I'll read this real quick. In the January board meeting, it was decided not to authorize ARC to move into the next phase of the aquatic recreation center project, due to the anticipated release of the 15 million in bond funds to be released in June or possibly July of this year. At January meeting, we actually were hoping that the funds would be released in May. At this time, the audit is anticipated to be entirely completed, no later than early May, we hope. This is significantly later than we originally anticipated. So there's two options. The first is to authorize ARC to resume work immediately. I think that's risky. Their bills state that they are due within 90 days of receipt. So if we received a bill in April, it would be due in July. And while we anticipate having the funds by July, it actually will be close. I did have a conversation with Paul Curtis from ARC, just asked him if we push this back at least another month, what that would do to him, or to them. He said it wouldn't really have an impact. He said other than just factoring in the possibility of price escalation that could go up, or the potential of breaking ground during the wet season. He says his big thing is that we just really don't want to start up again and then we hit the brakes again. So he goes, when we hit the gas next, we just want to hit the gas and go. And so I get that. So, but as far as the delay, he didn't seem, I asked him, I said, if there's a month or whatever the board decides to push this back. He said that wasn't a problem with that. So my recommendation is to do nothing. Our recommendation is we haven't authorized them to go with CD and to just bring this up in the April meeting, let another month go by to get us closer to that bond release, because we just don't want to start doing work that we can't pay for. So
Yeah, the waypoint, to me, the waypoint decision we're gonna have to make, and we need to come back from the steering committee with a recommendation, I think. But the way they plan this is you get to the end of what they call DD, design development, which is what we funded and what, where we are in the drawings that we have. And then they call that point DD final, which means the drawings are, design development is what DD stands for. The design is finished and developed. And then you go into CD, which is construction documents, which is blueprints. And so we got to the end of DD and we went out to the public with the last round of, the drawings, the detail, the last round of inputs, and we collected a bunch of inputs. There's probably 10 or 15 things that were discussed between the HVAC system, between the layout of the building, between, the amount of storage, the way the storage is laid out, like the patio design, the back of the building. So and we took them back to ARC, but the money was out because they finished DD. They got to this point called DD final. So they said, well, we can't help you because we don't have any money to work on it. But good news, we plan in that when we go into the CD phase, that there's time in there to fix the things that aren't 100% to what you like. So to me, there's two options. Like the end of the DD thing, they don't seem to attach as much importance to that. To me, the downside of when you're into the blueprint phase is you're into the blueprint phase. So they're like starting to make a blueprint and you're like, well, we said we thought we wanted to move the wall over here. And they're like, well, we just did a blueprint for the wall, or whatever. So there, the alternate approach would be to say, we want you to fix so that we end the DD phase with something we all say is that's what we want. Exactly. So you can make the blueprints from the first moment in the CD phase, and we're not going to slow you down. The downside of that is the estimate. Rich Bachwalupi on the committee has that construction engineering background. And he estimated kind of what that cost would be for the design work to make the changes, and it's something in the order of $30,000 or $40,000. So we would need to wait. So when we get the funds turned on Brian's timeline, you know, say it's May or June, the first thing we would do, the first 30,000 we would spend is not in the CD phase, but to stay in the DD phase and say, we want to fix these things and get the DD. So they create we got a new set of drawings, and we can all say, we are happy with that, because we are going to be, and I'm just read the tea leaves, and we talked to the guys in Port Angeles who went through the same thing 3 years ago. You get less and less involved as the blueprints start to happen, because
We want this.
yeah, exactly. So the range that you have are less off as it goes further. So anyway, so we want to come back, the steering committee come back with a recommendation. I just wanted to get that in your heads so you can think about how you would want to approach it. Again, you know, there's a number of the last thing that contributed to potential tweaks is we went and interviewed the Snohomish aquatic director for the facility they built in 2015. And they are a part of the school district in Snohomish, but the pool administrators are not school district employees. They are unique in that we talked about the M&O levy. So the M&O levy math that we did for the public said we would get a cost recovery in the facility in the range of 50 to 60%, which is what Oak Harbor recovers at about 52%. Many facilities around give you those kind of numbers. Well, Snohomish, the reason I went to interview Snohomish is they cost recover at 97%. So the M&O levy, our M&O levy as it is would fund the facility if we could cost recover at 97%. So the director there is a woman named Chris Benson. She's a rock star. She's going to be kind of our mentor. I asked her if she would mentor us in this. She said, absolutely. I will teach you how to do this. One of the things that they do is they have enough room to host events inside the building. And when you look at our drawings, the deck space that they have around the pool is about 4 feet wider than we have in the building all the way around. And they earned something like, I can't tell you how many, several $1 million in rental revenue from people all over the Puget Sound who want a place to have a swimming, who would come here, just like they would come to Snohomish. So anyway, so that last little bit of input, when you talk about making that bigger, there's a trade-off there in like things like maybe moving the walls in the building. So I think there's, fortunately,
Or facilitating the outdoor space.
yes, like, so, yeah, exactly. So the silver lining to this delay is I think that's something we need to explore with them, because like I said, they are almost recovering 100%.
Having been to a bunch of really crappy swim meets, I'm all for it.
Yes. So anyway, so like I said, keep that in the back of your mind, that need that says, don't let it go too far without us all agreeing that this is what we think we want to do. So anyway, so
97%, I think.
it's incredible. And she said she said that sheepishly because her objective was 100. And their fees are on par with facilities in the region. It's not like they charge 3 times they charge the same as you pay at Anacortes, at Mount Lake Paris, at Saskatchewan.
Yeah, but people would also just critical part of that in terms of being a destination for events. And in some respects, we offer a really cool destination.
Yes.
But on the other hand, they gotta take a ferry.
Yep.
So
Yep.
just.
Yep. No,
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. So anyway, more to come there. Just I wanted to frame out that
When I
was.
first read that, I was thinking, like, okay, is this a partnership with Amway? What are we doing? Trying to generate revenue.
No, she's a bulldog, and she'd probably appreciate if I said that. They told her, she said, I want to sell ice cream at the concession. They said, that's crazy, no one buys ice cream in the pool. And she goes, sure they do. And so she said, we're gonna start selling ice cream. We're gonna start and test it out, and we're gonna start selling ice cream in January. And the school district, they run the place, the school district said, not only that I'm gonna buy ice cream, for sure that I'm gonna buy it in January.
Yeah.
And she sold something like
Are you kidding?
$80,000 worth of ice cream in January.
Are you kidding?
So anyway, she,
First of all, you're a kid. Second of all, after you swim, you'll eat anything.
yeah, I know.
Brian,
I know.
here, when I first read this, I hesitated because I thought, why are we delaying again? And really what caught me was what weather. I started timelining it in my head, thinking, okay, how would that impact it? I don't think the escalation of costs is gonna be that, I don't think it's gonna be that big a difference.
No.
If anything, costs are coming down
Yeah.
more than they were
Yeah.
post-pandemic.
Yeah.
But the weather did have me concerned, but now after, the discussion we're having here, I mean, it seems really prudent to take time, because correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but I know I personally have a lot more concerns about the design process where we left off. So we're not quite there yet in
Right.
terms of, you mentioned walls and structures.
Right,
We've
right.
got a little ways to go. So I think it's a good move to pause.
And hopefully, so next week is the last week, 2 weeks, with any kind of luck, we'll have the action items for the audit in time for our meeting on the 7th.
Yes.
So we'll know hopefully
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot
We're
more.
at corrective action. We need
Right,
their
right.
time. Yeah.
And then these would be, I've asked for updates from them before, they're working very hard, the state is, I like the team that we're working with. But that's what the timeline is today. And I don't expect another delay, I expect to have their report next week.
I need to wear. And I know we don't usually do this, and I don't know what would be involved, but. Would we want to move the April board meeting 1 week later? Just so that we have that information.
Yeah, the only issue is voucher payment.
Yeah. And, I can still sit out there. I mean, there's no board action at the findings stage. It'll just be Gary and hopefully me, I can be helpful to Gary, jumping on the answers and we'll get off the, it'll be good. We'll get there. This too will pass and it's gonna, what's made this audit completely different than a normal audit is it's a 3-year audit. And it includes the year 2020 where we had a different CPA and we had a different business manager. So we're having to dig, and there was a pandemic.
And then,
So it was that year's easily taken up more time than the other 2 years combined. So it is what it is. We're getting there.
Yeah, so the only thing in this timeline is the grant application window. So the WWR or the RCO grant application window is gonna come up in May 15th, the deadline date. So the grant application plan is to apply for the LWCF grant using the waiver that Port Angeles got. And the grant maximum is $2 million. So there will be a grant application prepared for submit to RCO of something around that $2 million level, leveraging the bond as match. So if we get 2 million, we need to match 2 million. We have 2 million to match. So we want to go for the maximum amount. And that's part of the funding plan to account for some of these changes and other things. So anyway, that's going to happen in here in between before we restart. So the only rub is going to be, we're going to have to prepare materials, and we have so many materials I think we're going to get. But the LWCF grant criteria says the closer to shovel ready you are. So we have funding, public funding, we have permits from ARC doing their work. So the package is going to emphasize those two things. We are close. So anyway, that's going to happen before the audit and the bond issuance, for sure.
So with this one, Eric, there's no action needed. I don't feel any movement or want to pushing the CD, so this can just, I'll keep it on the agenda monthly and we'll just keep talking about it till you guys feel comfortable. And I'll keep giving updates as to where we are in the process. And we're okay going to the next item.
Pickleball
So
design.
we do have a guest. No, not pickleball design. We're on to the Aquatic Recreation Center bond resolution.
Almost there.
And Deanna Gregory from Pacifica Law has been with us and waiting patiently. And so thank you, Deanna, for being here. You're still with us. I mean, we pull up the big screen here and see if I can. There she is.
I'm here.
Hello.
Oh, now I see myself. Oh.
Oh, sorry. Okay, here we go. I'll minimize you. Hang on. What do you guys see? Okay, you're just seeing that. So I'm never sure what people are seeing. So I will minimize that and I think they will still see. I think when you start talking, they will see you. So Deanna, thank you for coming and usually I'm seeing that, Deanna. So I'm gonna make it big again so they can see you. So do you want to, and you just kind of give us kind of a overview as to what this bond resolution is, and what they're going to be voting on?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Sorry, I'm not there in person. I will be coming out to see you all before the bonds are closed, and certainly when the facility is built. The resolution in front of you is the only time, absent market conditions changing or something else going kind of haywire in the market. This is the one time that you'll see this group present a bond authorizing document in front of you. This is the main everything built into it, authorizing resolution that authorizes the issuance of the first piece of the bonds of the 27 million that was approved by voters last November. This resolution authorizes the issuance of up to 16 million of that dollar amount. And we anticipate bringing back another resolution at some point in the future for completion of the project, but this resolution is for that first piece. So the main goal of this resolution that you have in front of you is simply to authorize the issuance of that first piece of the bonds. The resolution pursuant to state law delegates to authorized individuals the authority to approve the final terms of the bonds, subject to that authorization that you're considering tonight. Section 11 outlines certain what we call authorization parameters, the not to exceed principal amount that can be issued under this resolution of $16 million, the final maturity date, not to exceed all-in interest cost, and that the bonds will otherwise comply with this resolution. And so what that allows us to do is that after this the resolution is considered tonight, if it's approved, we'll have the green light to move ahead and prepare finish preparing the disclosure documents that are used in connection with the offering and sale of the bonds and get into the market. We're selling these bonds on a public sale, and so they'll be sold to investors all across the country and here locally. And then moving forward with the final closing of the bonds, and the closing is when you actually get the funds. But if those parameters cannot be met, the bonds will not be sold under this resolution, and we will be back for additional guidance from this board. The bonds will be sold to D.A. Davidson as the underwriter of the bonds. And so this resolution also authorizes the execution of a bond purchase contract for the sale. D.A. Davidson, of course, turns around and sells those bonds to the ultimate investors. It also sets forth all of the covenants and provisions with respect to the bonds. We anticipate that these bonds will be sold as tax-exempt obligations, given what the expectations are surrounding the facility. And those tax-exempt obligations come with a number of requirements that have to be satisfied throughout the life of the bonds. And so those covenants are set forth in this document. So for example, there are limitations on how much private business use a tax-exempt bond finance facility can have, such as a lease or special rights that are granted to a certain private party or an operator to operate the facility on behalf of the district. So we will work with you after the bonds are issued to review contracts and to make sure that those private use thresholds are satisfied for the life of the bonds. Federal tax law also governs how those bond proceeds are invested prior to them being spent on the finance facility, and then also just record keeping and other aspects that are a little bit different than state law. And also the resolution from the perspective of the bondholders, this makes them very happy. There's a covenant, of course, in this document that the district is going to collect those excess property taxes that the voters approved and use those excess property taxes to pay debt service on the bonds when they come due and payable. So that is in a nutshell what the resolution does. There's a lot of administrative information in here regarding registration and delivery and transfer of the bonds. And then also because they are securities, they're subject to some federal securities laws. And so there's a handful of covenants related to securities law and the preparation of certain disclosure documents. But I'd be happy to answer any questions and about either anything specific about the laws that apply or about the resolution itself.
Some goodness.
I think I put everybody to sleep.
You answered all their questions, though. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so now what gates exist, once we approve the resolution, what gates exist on our trajectory towards getting the bond rating itself, right? We're moving down a path to complete a full audit of district finances and district financial policies. And then, make any necessary adjustments and corrections from those. Then we will, with DA Davidson's support, make a presentation to Standard & Poor's and then they will determine our credit rating. How does this dovetail with that in timeline?
The rating presentation and the preparation of the documents that are used in that presentation to the rating agencies are going along on a parallel track. So there's a couple of documents that are used with the rating agencies. There's the presentation itself, which DA Davidson is taking the lead on. And then there's the preliminary official statement, which we are serving also not only as bond counsel to the district, but also as disclosure counsel to the district. And so we are kind of the scrivener, the one holding the pen on the preliminary official statement. And that is, if in the kind of corporate securities world, very similar to a prospectus. And it's the offering document that's used to market the bonds to investors. And also it's used with the rating agencies so they can gather up information regarding the bond issue and the pledge of security and the intended use of proceeds and all the other bells and whistles that go along with the bonds. So we're working on that document with district staff and the rest of the finance team now. And those will get wrapped up. We'll have a good solid draft delivered to the rating agency along with a copy of the resolution if it's approved tonight. And that will be discussed. Rating agencies will have a handful of their questions on their criteria that they'll go through. And once the rating is received, the rating is included in that offering document in the preliminary official statement, and then we'll release it to investors. And the rating is of course important in this process because it has a large influence on the interest rates that are paid. The higher the credit rating, of course, just like your individual credit rating, the less risky the investment is intended to be.
Right, right. Thank you.
Then, yeah, and then after that, just in terms of next steps, the DA Davidson will market the bonds. So their desk will get those bonds out in front of investors, and we'll have a week or so where we're in the market, and then the bonds will be priced. And on that day, the interest rates are set. It's like locking in your interest rate on your house if you're familiar with buying a home. And that's when the bond purchase contract between the district and DA Davidson is signed. And then from that point, there's a very limited universe of outs that are outlined in the bond purchase contract. So at that point, once the bonds are priced and the purchase contract is signed, the terms are set, the interest rates are set, the maturities, the principals, all the payment dates and everything are set at that point. And it's very challenging to reverse the train at that point. So we don't want to go down that path unless something catastrophic happens. And then typically we close a couple weeks after that. So we will prepare a whole host of closing documents, and that will ultimately go into the transcript. Work with the finance team to wrap up some of the documents that are important to, again, setting forth in more detail a lot of the covenants that are outlined in this bond resolution. And then on the closing day, that is when the money is wired, and you can spend it on your projects.
Thank you.
Jim Nelson from the Davidson, by his rough timeline, late June, early July would be the approximate distribution time if the audit was done by the May. I'm saying so. He said a timeline with just projected dates.
We have 90 days pending.
Yeah, so that's why we're pushing this back a little bit. So, if there's no other questions, I think we just.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the bond resolution, likely laid out by Deanna Gregory.
Yeah, so do we have any document identifier for the full resolution document, like a revision number? I mean, we have the resolution number, our 2024-1.
Yeah, it's a resolution 24.
Yeah, like I said, do we have a revision number of this document? Because we're gonna reference this current copy of the document in a motion, right? Otherwise, we read the entire contents of the document in the motion. So what are we calling this? And then what are we calling this iteration, Deanna? Has it got a date associated with it?
Yeah, typically what I hear is for the title to be read into the record, or just a reference to the resolution number. It's really depends on your protocols, how you typically do it.
Right. Yeah, again, typically it's yeah, so we can use today's date and this copy that we have here, and this, which will be the fiscally signed copy.
What's the resolution number?
Yeah, and it's resolution 2024-1, approved on March 20th, 2024. And you can certainly, there's a title to the resolution if you'd like to read it. It's rather long, but
yeah, no, that's fine. So
okay.
Do we have any other comments, input from board commissioners here or online? Jake?
No comment on this.
Okay, so there are no comments. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-1 dated March 20, 2024. This is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Southwood Parks and Recreation District, Allen County, Washington, providing for the issuance and sale of one or more series of unlimited tax general obligation bonds of the district in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $16 million. Provide funds to finance the design, development, and construction of a new aquatic recreation center. and to pay costs of issuing the bond, providing for the annual levy of taxes to pay the bonds, and delegating the authority to determine the final terms of the bonds under the terms and conditions set forth herein. Again, this document dated March 20th, 2024.
I will second that motion.
All right, so a motion has been made to approve resolution 2024-1 on March 20th, 2024. All those in favor of passing this motion approve by saying aye.
Krista, I.
Matt, I.
Jake, I.
Eric, aye. All those not in favor? Nay. The ayes have it, motion passes.
Great. Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all the
For
help.
the explanation.
And your patience.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Qual design.
There's a couple. Chris, you can secretary, so I got the spots. Yes, let me get back into the, seeing pickleball design, yes, where we started. Then we passed through. As I said last month, we catch through this resolution real quick. I put back at me. Should have taken it out. Here we go. In January, just a reminder, we went out to bid for the design portion of the new pickleball courts to be located at the sports complex. After screening and interviewing the companies, staff unanimously selected to move forward with RWD Landscape Architects. Unrelated to the choosing them, but just an interesting side note. This is also the company selected to do the Carver pickleball courts, excuse me. So there is a possible savings opportunity for some of the overlap work. But that was not related with the, with the price could go down if they could share some expenses.
Brian, how many did you do Carver again? What was that again?
I think our final number is 8. It is a different kind of project. They're looking at potentially resurfacing some courts and doing some different things.
Oh,
So, in some ways, we're a little farther ahead than they are, and that we know our location and all of that. So it's a different kind of project, but there are some overlaps. After negotiating the fees, we came to a proposed compensation not to exceed the amount of $98,277.50. In your packet was a detailed breakdown of how that cost breaks down. And researching other comparable courts, it was in the ballpark of reasonable. The bid was, I think their explanation I went through with RWD, the Don Campbell, the representative, I went through the bid with him, talking through the different sections. I do think this number could come down potentially into some of the, this is the not to exceed number, not the bottom number. So anyways, at this point, I feel comfortable with it. And my recommendation is to approve allowing me to enter into a contract with our MDD, the amount not to exceed $98,000. Let's say $78,000.
is Tom able to do and has already, right? Preemptive work that would offset some of that cost as well?
A little bit, not necessarily the design work. Tom's done, he's looked into some of the fill things, and as I was talking to Barry about earlier, some of what got our attention is that this design company really came out here, walked the grounds, and really had ideas that were specific to our site. Ideas to try to avoid some of the slopey area, talked about, this, the neighbor over here and making sure we're being considerate. It was a very well thought out plan, not just here's the course we've always done, plop them in our park. So,
Right.
So yeah, I think, Art Holmes, he's worked and started making contact with some of the companies on maybe some of the backfill, some of the material we brought in.
Yeah, that's what I thought where we had left off.
Mhm.
The other question I would have is expansion in the future. Are we thinking ahead?
Absolutely. That was the first thing I had mentioned to him when we walked the land was, we're going for 6. What if we wanted 12 eventually?
Right.
And very similar to the aquatic center, you always want to kind of be thinking, is there a phase 2? Plenty of land there to build on. Right now, he's proposing using kind of the upper slot and not going farther into where it dips down a little bit. But clearly that could be used. We have a lot of space. So the opportunity to expand was discussed, and it will be part of the discussion during the design phase to make sure that's validated.
My only concern, and with this, if you look at the scope of work, that they say the scope of the project is prepare bid and construction ready documents for up to 6 pickleball courts. To me, it's that we should strike the up to,
Right, yeah,
like, we don't want, I don't want to come back and say 4, because
you can only do 4.
not gonna work, or 5, something random. The 6 was designed
Yeah.
from the, yeah. So anyway, so other than that, and they talk, what they talk about is these 3 progressive design phases. It's kind of similar to what ARC was doing, the 30%, 95%, 100%, and a plan submittal and client review at each phase. So we're gonna have a look at the 30% at a minimum to have a chance for everybody, all the stakeholders to,
Yeah.
so anyway, so I'm not comfortable unless we strike that up to language.
I agree.
We can do it.
Good.
I'll have no trouble with that.
So we're looking for a motion to not exceed 98,277.50, right?
Yeah, just allow me to enter into a contract. And we can throw in the verbiage of that.
Yeah.
For a, 4-6 football.
Yeah.
Nothing more or less.
So I will make a motion to allow to enter to contract with RWD Landscape Architecture. In an amount not to exceed $98,277.50. 50 cents, excuse me, 50 cents. With the change to strike out up to 6 courts, it must include 6 courts.
I'll second the motion.
And for discussion, I'll also throw out that, I've already sent a contract through, actually to review. And so our contract will say 6 scores. So the contract that we asked them to sign will say 6 scores.
30 on language. Yeah.
So,
Yep. So a motion has been made and seconded to approve RWD landscape architecture not to exceed $98,277.50 in the creation of 6 pickleball courts. All those in favor of that particular motion, approved by saying aye.
Mr. I, what do I do? Where do I sign?
Jake, I.
Eric, aye. Anyone opposing, please
Finish.
say nay. All right, the motion is passed.
Great.
On the comp plan,
How about that, Barry?
thank you, Barry.
Yeah, man, get there.
Great.
Took us a while.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We're day close. Outline pretty straightforward. The comment section, comment time is closed. We, with the board's direction, I did send this out to our stakeholders. I got several, good comments back, some of which I shared with, some board members, several working on their parts. Several, good comments from board members as far as tweaking and how it lays out and how it reads. We made a lot of cosmetic changes. At the end of the day, I think it's a functional document that will work with the budget.
Yeah,
So,
the only thing, and I apologize, I've been traveling overseas, and I didn't have a chance to look at the 2024 to 2029 look forward.
right.
I think because of the timeline, we need to include the aquatic recreation center in that section. Yeah, it's not there. So for grant coverage, for example, this grant needs to be in that section. It looks like maybe there was some pagination that happened there, and
We're talking about this one,
this one it's in the board guide.
right, this, the cop, I can't find on track, and they're about this page, I don't think.
No, I'm talking about the look forward 2024, 29 section that lists the key projects.
Oh,
Big thing. Got the community center, it's got the,
But the project happened.
yeah, that section is where they look. First.
Okay.
And there was a block in the existing comp plan for it. I don't think it would need thrown, like you could just drop it in there.
Okay, that's,
Yeah, let me see where it would be, what page. So,
looking forward, page 24 on. I'm on there.
police minister, staff of the table, current estimate. Yeah, looking forward, it should be on page somewhere between 24 and 20.
I mean, yeah, that was 20 a catch. And appropriations.
Yeah.
Sure.
And my only comment, and well, I think it was wonderful. On 30, I guess it's page 34, the needs assessment survey responses. It's just an interesting thing that, when we put these surveys out, and I'm speaking as a teacher, works with a lot of young people who are old enough to understand and appreciate trails, hoop courts, pickleball courts, and so on. Somehow getting them involved with this. It's one thing with a parent who knows they want a playground for their child. It's another if you're 15 years old, you don't drive, and you want a place to do something. Your pump track vote is going to be substantially higher from this audience than it is a person in the community who has no idea what a pump track is.
Right.
So it's some way of accounting for that. And that can be done through surveys in schools, and just a way of making their voice heard, because that young population, I guarantee, is in the parks a lot, whether Tom likes that or not. That's a fact of it. And
I think what I found with teenagers is the words focus groups, getting them together, like in this kind of setting, and having them just start talking about these ideas. All of a sudden you start. That's a great idea. And I think next time we do this kind of a survey, I think finding a way to engage the middle school, high school, maybe directly, maybe.
we're small enough that can be done.
Yeah.
It can be facilitated.
Come to the cafeteria during lunchtime. To the table, or whatever. So interesting. Thank you. That's interesting.
Another piggyback idea on that is like National Night Out that's usually in April, usually at the fire station here too, but police and fire and everyone comes out, and something that community can all gather, and maybe we could have a booth in the future to get people's ideas on something like this as well.
I like National Night Out.
The other comment I had was on the same regard, sports courts, it says, sports fields, and then you have a turf sports field in separate categories. And I understand why, but from a voting perspective or someone who's reading that, turf field is pretty open to interpretation. You know what I mean? And in terms of looking at sports fields, I think you would have people maybe more in favor of that if they knew exactly what that meant. And I'm not knocking it.
No, it's
I don't think
we're all trying to get
that I'm looking at from the perspective of your average, person who's filling out the survey.
Sure.
They're categorically separate, but maybe they really shouldn't be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And through the course of this comp plan, we'll do another survey like this out again. So that we're not just getting feedback at the end of it. We'll put a plan in place for feedback continually. So the next time we get this comp plan in 6 years, we'll have that's not budgeted. But for tonight's purposes, I think Matt's comment about having the ARC work the pool, ARC meaning Aquatic Operations Center in this case, into page 24 makes a lot of sense to me. So if you guys are comfortable with the rest, then I think we would just need a motion to approve it with that addition.
Yeah, and I'd say before, one thing to get, at least to get into consideration is you were talking about it as a living document. I think that's a good way to approach it. It's something I haven't done in the past. So how would we do that? Like, what would we be comfortable with?
You mean how you would word that? It's funny you say that, Matt, because I was thinking of Barry's here, and when we had our first discussions about pickleball, that wasn't part of the comp plan. at the time. And we were pushing it because we knew it was coming down the pipe. And it's that very thing that
Yeah.
it's a working document. It doesn't mean it's subject in stone, but
Well, so-
what if tomorrow we turn around?
In the past, we did not update it, right? That was just not part of our process. And the state generally, if you squint your eyes, they consider it static. More so than they would consider a living document, but I think it's in practice, it would be better if we were more dynamic with it.
So the reason why we're trying to get this done and trying to vote on this tonight is so that it can be
Yep.
that static document,
Yep.
that supports our grant application. And that's fine. Right? That's
Yep.
outward facing,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But internally facing for us, it is our plan. It's how we consider opportunities. It's a way that we stay focused on what we're working on. And so I don't see why it can't be a static document and a living document.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like there's, this approved that is submitted, to outside agencies. Again, that's the outward facing document, but for us internally.
Right.
So, I think it's, as we have ideas such as how to improve the next survey, like you just spoke to, right? Like right there. That's the first entry.
And maybe the answer to that question, to keep it living and answering at the same time, is we do have a comp plan committee. And maybe we do 6-month check-ins or something like that, could be added. And so the conversation continues, like, okay, are there addendums, or I don't know the right word is there, but, but maybe making that a committee that meets regularly, and regularly might be annual, it might be every 6 months. Just to say, okay, here's where it is. Pickleball is a great example. 6 years ago, pickleball wasn't what it is today.
Right.
Obviously, that evolved.
yeah, but not quite. So it's a good point that Eric just made. Pickleball is not in this plan either.
Yeah. It's not in this plan.
It's missing from page 26. The development list of community park sports complex.
It is, because I think in the discussion of pickleball, the addition of pickleball, we didn't add additional outdoor courts. But I think
There's no mention of it whatsoever.
But dovetailing on what we're just talking about if there's a phase 2,
Yeah, it needs to be in this list.
it would be included.
In the list of community park development, major elements development at the top of page 26. We got development, which this is a development, a phase 2 would be a development project in the terminology. Community park and sports complex. Oh, yeah, so in sports complex, we have soccer goal, pavement overlay, rough area regrade, and bathroom renovation. So the pickleball complex needs to be bullet 1 in that sports complex section on page 26.
So the board wants to change those two things, which I'm fine with, add pickleball and add the aquatic recreation center.
But just one more thing about this living document and having sort of a process, or in this case, a place.
Yep.
And I'm still getting used to our new Outlook and SharePoint, but if we have a SharePoint folder and kind of you know what I mean? And so that if something comes up at a board meeting, or we say, hey, can this idea, can this be added to the SharePoint for the comp plan? And then whatever, every 6 months or 9 months or a year, when the comp plan committee gets together, they have one repository where they're going and saying, okay, let's review all the things that have come up over the last X many months, and let's go through them and see if we want to add.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense.
And if you add something to this, you're gonna do a whole other resolution. So we're clear on that. Because so it's
Yes, I understand.
it didn't need necessarily complicated to add, but let's change it into this and skip it ours.
Yeah, and that's a question to ask, RTO contacts is say it's a year from now and we make a dynamic change to something else that's changed in the needs assessment, for example, and we refile it, like the static one, can the static one be updated? That we're a year into it.
Like,
So anyway, I'd be comfortable making a motion to approve it with the addition of a block, a complete block for the aquatic center from the 2016 plan. And pickleball in the sports complex section on page 26.
I will, yeah, and I will second that motion. That was huge.
I will make a motion to approve the 2024-2029 comp plan for the the 2024-2029 comp plan with the addition of a looking forward block on the aquatic recreation center and the addition of pickleball complex to the looking forward block on development at the sports complex.
oh, no, sorry. This is what we talk.
And I second that motion.
And keep up. Matt, what was the word you were using there? You said addition of aquatic center and pickleball, but you called it block.
To the looking forward section.
Yeah, no, I get that. What was the word, the term you used?
Well,
You said addition of,
oh, the aquatic recreation
sound
center
like blocking my
Block.
hearing's really bad.
block.
Block, okay.
Yeah, it's
Block.
this,
So you're just talking about adding that block.
and then adding
Okay.
a bullet for the pickleball complex in the hang on, it's called. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember I was there.
in the objective, improving community park structures, facilities and trails. Development,
Community park structure.
that development sports complex.
So a motion has been made and seconded to approve the comp plan for 2024 through 29 with the addition of language and a block for a block in the block for the aquatic center and a bullet including pickleball and carp in the comp park structures category.
Community parks.
Facilities, yes, in the community park structures. All those in favor say aye.
Krista, I.
Matt, I.
Jake, I.
Eric, aye. Anyone opposing, please say by including nay. Okay, the ayes have it and the motion passes.
And, once those changes are made, I'll make copies and distribute them to the stakeholders.
And issue a copy to RCO.
Yes, absolutely. And you obviously all of you guys as well, so. We'll make lots of comments. Good, thank you. All right, Eric, if you're okay with me moving on to the last item.
Yeah, sorry. I'm still
Right.
signing.
People did.
You want me to, I assume, since I'm chair tonight, sign for this as well, right?
Which one are you signing?
Well, I find the approval of this one.
I think it's signed, you signed as the vice chair, I'll let Jennifer swing by, because there's.
I don't think there is no place for vice chair in here, but.
Oh, then just leave it, I'll do.
Chair, okay. We'll send that back down to you. I think I signed appropriately.
Yeah, I'll double check.
Oh, this one and the signature for fiscal agent.
Right. I'm sure that's you, yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask Karen.
Yeah.
I know it's me, but
Probably is. Well, I'm sure it's signed, because I can make another copy and find out what's wrong.
okay.
I rather think it's easier. So campground. Excited. I think we're making progress. It's not as slow as fast as we all wanted, but it's good. I met with the campground committee, which is Jake and Krista, last month, and then we re-engaged J.E. Brennan, who did the initial schematic work for some of the pictures, designs of the campground. Found out that to complete the design work, it was going to be, this would get us to 90% completion. They quoted a price of $476,160. we currently have 206, a little over 200, almost 207,000 in the RCO grant, which requires matching funds. I'm giving you the background to say kind of where we are with this. I met with Allison last week, Carrie and I did. She had a meeting with her supervisor about the campground grant. That it was getting kind of complicated from there, and the grant that's been sitting there for a while. She expressed some concerns regarding funding a project that doesn't have a clear short-term timeline for completion. Short-term being within the next year or two, as stated. Oh, and then so Jake and Krista and I met again this week to discuss this. Basically, RCO was saying to us that we're not saying no, because our plan at that point was to use the money for the design work, and to at least get the design moved forward so we could get some permits and move forward with that. RCO said they had a lot of concerns, but that if we could give them a 1 to 2 year timeline to completion, that they would be open to that. We couldn't. I mean, we don't stake it at 7, 8 years at this point, so I don't think that's a realistic commitment. She did say that the path forward for their funding easily could be us closing the current grant, which this is the same grant to which we've acquired the property for the campground. So we have used a couple $100,000 at least of this grant. I actually don't know the number. So we could close this grant out with just what's already been allocated for the acquisition, and then come back in a year or 2 years down the road and reapply once we are farther along and figured out the permits and have figured out the funding plan for the build and all of the rest of it. So basically, without saying it, I think the suggestion was it would be probably good for our relationship to hit the brakes on this funding cycle. Also, just a reminder that we do have, because this grant requires matching funds, we do have, I don't have the exact number, but around $200,000 of our money put aside for the campground still. So when we do engage funders, we do have some matching funds available that's earmarked specifically for this. The other factor that RCO told us was it gets complicated because the county told us that we have to have our permits for all phases of the work. We can't just have designs for just phase 1. So we have to have all the designs for all the phases of the entire project. But RCO with the current grant is only funding phase 1, which means that if the design work, as J.A. Brain quoted, was about $480,000, they would have to break that up into what part of the design work was specifically for just phase 1, what was for the future phases, and then RCO would only reimburse us. Bottom line is after the recommendation, Chris and Jake can speak to their own, is it seems prudent at this point to close out the current RCO grant, allow the campground committee to continue meeting quarterly, which is what we kind of committed to do now, to continue the project moving forward, and then to redo a finance plan with grants down the line. So, Krista, Jake, I spoke a lot there, but either of you have comments or thoughts, so guys, just speak anything.
Jake?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Yeah, we agreed to meet quarterly and keep it alive while realizing that there's a lot going on right now. Of course, with the pool and the and pickleball. Also, we had talked about when at our meetings to in the future do the campground potentially in one shot versus in stages down the road versus dragging it out even further, doing it right the first time when that time comes versus getting in very primitive sites, dredging, digging back up to lay further infrastructure for, say, water or septic. So that was just another note, but I think, yeah, Brian did a really good job explaining the little bit of a pickle that, or quite the pickle that we're all in right now.
Yeah, and just to kind of really reiterate some of that. what became apparent was this mismatch between the county meeting all phases, whereas RCO funding phase one. Like that's just not matching up. And also, we learned something really important with this, and that was that, and Brian found the documentation, found like the email that said like with the decision that the staff and that we were going to take on working out the permits with the county.
With we is who?
Staff,
Yeah.
and us,
You're right.
right,
But pick it up from who?
from Jay Brennan or whoever.
Yeah.
That was an email from Doug. So,
Oh, us voluntarily.
yeah, so
In the courts.
I think what we're seeing with the model with ARC and the aquatic center, the model with who RWD that we just signed up for pickleball courts, like let's let them handle the problem.
Right.
I think that was
For sure.
that was kind of that was what we needed to learn, and I think this project and that's really taught us that.
And this permitting news this is new to us, correct? They needed a lump permitting as opposed
Yeah.
to phase, right?
Right.
We did not have that knowledge
We
before.
didn't have that knowledge, but also that's not what we do.
Right.
You know, like
I get
that's
completely.
so again, between this mismatch in terms of planning and the funding and all of that, with that on top, and then also looking at the latest survey, people have kind of forgotten about the campground that came out much lower. And also just our own internal discussions and really, Jake has such experience with this. Coming back to, well, we would just like to build the campground that we would like. Not this phases, like, I think when they envision a campground, a real campground here, they want toilets. Like let's do this right. So, but we're still committed. That's why as a committee, we're gonna meet ongoing. We're gonna still continue to try to work with the county so that we understand that process. And also preserve our excellent relationship with RCO by closing this.
A couple questions.
Sure.
So, do we think, and don't know how much re-engagement we've done to be able to say, but do we think Brendan is the right partner for this, or do we not know?
I think starting, let's say a year or two from now, we'll go back out. I think I've talked to them. I don't know, they might be, they're very assertive. They certainly, they set up a meeting with Davido and we were talking water and they're very assertive.
Yeah, they do. We picked them a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because they did this kind of thing. So that's question one. Okay, so question two or point two is that RCO grant cycle is a biennial cycle,
Yeah.
right? So this 2024 is an application window
Right.
for money at the end of 2024.
Yeah.
It's not likely to make this cycle for an application, so 2026.
Right.
And so you indicated the feedback from the survey. We did have feedback in one of our public meetings for the aquatic center. People came and expressed a significant issue with, with our commitment to the public on the campground 5 years ago, 7 years ago.
Sure.
So I think, there won't be a camper. We'll be 10 years into it without a camper having camped in our campground. So I think we got to be aware of that. I don't think I would make a different decision I don't know if there is a different decision to make, but we just gotta be aware in our ongoing dialogue with the public that we are accepting whatever path we got to here, that it's gonna be a decade with a property and not a camper. So, and maybe that says to us, like to your point about there's an expectation for campground. Like, and we had always said, you know, Tom and the staff could cut, you know, a bunch of, first round of campsites, and get people in there. I personally feel like, as you do, that there's a baseline expectation of water infrastructure, of restroom, shower, that kind of thing. And figuring out a path to get there is more important than, but, we were talking about hosting Little League districts, hosting an ultimate frisbee tournament for a weekend, like,
We'd love to do that.
yeah, there's a, natural fit to those kind of things. So anyway, okay, so as long as we understand that grant timeline and what we're.
And I'm torn as well on the same thing because we approved a higher levy rate on the, Matt used the word traction for a lot of different projects, the ability to do that. And I get the dynamics of where we're at. But there's that part of it's like, all right, we also want to be clear about we're still moving forward and.
Well, that time, in the timeline, well, if you look at, but it's a good point. If you look at the timeline from the levy renewal, one of the elements of that was build matching funds available to, because like, for example, this could be an LWCF grant. LWCF grant cap in 2026 is going to be 2.5 million, right? So I'm sure the budget for this full build out could be contained in 2.5 million. Right, so if you look at that timeline of having a match form in May of 2026, that levy renewal gets us to a point where we could potentially match that in May of 2026 with enough money to complete the project to what you and Jake are describing. So I think if you guys in your quarterly meetings map that out with an eye towards looking at the 6-year budget calculation that shows where that capital fund's gonna be versus what we think the total cost, installed cost is gonna be versus the 2026, either WWRP local parks or LWCF, whichever is the right fit. Then I think that's a story that when we get approached to talk about campground, I can draw that map and say, this is how we get there. Because right now, I couldn't draw.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Got support, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, so in any case, that's how we got to where we are.
well, maybe I don't know if you guys have already done this. Maybe there's room. We have on the website, a list of the major programs where somebody in the community can go and click and say, what's state of the state? Maybe we end up with, a PowerPoint slide that shows how we're gonna get there, some kind of a timeline so that we can send people something like that over the course of the next.
Yeah, we want to continue to communicate that.
Right, we're being as transparent as possible. I mean, I think Matt said it well where he said, I don't know if there is an entry. But it's just where we're at. It's not a dead project. I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation, it'd be easy to just push this on the rug and be like, let's just focus on the pool. But I think the fact that we're pushing forward and brainstorming and talking about this.
So, okay.
Well, and I would support, Krista made, that was a great statement about let's do it the right way. As a camper or somebody who uses the same kind of facilities, I'm in total agreement. Like doing it partial, it's not the way to go. And we're gonna end up with more problems than we are.
I think that would work for some communities. I don't think it works for this community.
I don't think it does either. And the location of where that's at.
Right, and
Close to the high school.
exactly, and what we want to do, if we want to have sporting events, we want to do things like that. People are going to want to take showers, and it's just that's.
Okay, so
It's a better alignment, and this started 10 years ago, and I think it took 7 years ago.
kicked out that quick.
And yeah, I think at that time, it made sense to maybe try to break this into smaller chunks into these phases. But we hadn't done any big projects at that point. We hadn't, right? Whereas now, 7 years later, going through this pool process, going through pickleball court process, we now know more. We've learned some things, and I also think that the public understands that, you know, we didn't fully understand, again, what the Island County requirements were and the permitting. And I'm willing to get there, that there's probably a lot of our constituents who've had the same problem with the county, and
Yeah.
they might understand.
I think
So,
So how about one last point or thought anyway? So you were talking about salvaging and, you know, restoring some element of the relationship with RCO, right? So is there room for us to like write them like a formal letter that says, you know, South Goodby Parks and Rec District, we appreciate your support, like something that.
this is a question for
Yeah,
the review.
Yeah, no, it's the first time we're uncharted territory, right? And in the past, what we've had happen, like with the turf field, we got a grant. You know, a grant was issued and we couldn't match it. And so it was never given to us and they just pull it back. In this case, we've been issued a grant and we went to them asking for a waiver extension, which they also granted us. So our name has been in their meeting discussion. So like I said, maybe, and there's no precedent for it that I know, but it seems to be in our best interest to formalize it in not an email, not in a.
Yeah. Clarity of plan.
Yeah, like, hey, and that somehow in paragraph says, we're gonna take another run at this and we expect it to be 2026. So expect us back there. We're gonna have a full plan, you know, whatever, just something that.
And thank you for your support and your consideration and your guidance, and we value.
And maybe they read that in one of their meetings and we get, and
I think it's important because you can easily look at us, they're done with this, they're not getting enough traction,
right,
We're not done,
you know.
we are just,
Yeah, one thing I think is very positive about all the stuff we're doing, she's also the one doing this pickleball courts. Yeah. And the way she said they would phrase it if we decided to go this way, just like we are, is they will change it to a called an acquisition grant. So we'll change the phrasing of from their perspective, how they label it. So it's now an acquisition grant, to which we fully executed it because we acquired it. So from their perspective, the grant will be labeled successful because it will be an acquisition grant that completed its objective. And so from their end, the phrase was, I mean, just being a good steward. She said we have to be a good steward to make sure that when we fund it, I said, we get it. When I said we asked for the meeting with RCO, it was us coming to them saying, we want to make sure that we are telling you exactly what our plans are so that we are making sure that we are within the lines of what you guys are asking us to do. And so I think there's a good healthy dialogue and relationship there, but I think a nice narrative declaration.
Yeah, and I think you hit a good point. I think we would emphasize in that, you know, one of the RCO missions is to protect properties in the public trust in perpetuity. Right, so for public benefit. So phase one is complete. We protected this property that came up adjacency with the park, you know, shared infrastructure, all that stuff. So we successful. Thank you for your support to the successful completion of this. We're going to come back on the development 2026. I think, like I said, it's very likely they'll read it in a meeting because it's on an agenda somewhere. Our extension, they're going to call Allison. Allison might say, hey, I got a letter from South Woodby. We got a good, clear idea, blah, blah, blah. We're getting the 200,000 back. We're going to send it to Fording or to Ilwaco or some other place that needs it. Right.
if you wanna share, but you know.
All right. Well, good. Well, I don't think there's a motion. Right? That's not what our.
I had one other thing that just came, that's just earlier today or yesterday, you sent an email about Council of Governments meetings and all of that. So yeah, our logo's not on there. We're not included. I don't think we ever have been included in that.
No.
North, would be, Park and Rec is not included either, so I don't feel like we're being singled out. I just wish that we could read the minutes of their meetings. I did go to the website, and although they post the agendas, the last minutes was from either October or November of 2023. So I don't know how that. You got the email or whatever, but
They sent it to Doug.
okay, so just maybe a response is, we don't feel the need to attend, however,
Yeah, I like the idea of seeing those.
a little more attention to posting your minutes, which is required by law. Right?
Whatever this.
Yeah, but they're probably not a governing board.
Yeah, I don't think
They're elected officials to come together to talk about official status.
If they could be a little better about getting those things online, that would be great.
Well, and I think the thing is, it's an open invitation. Andy. If you just want to log in and Zoom with them and just listen in, just have it on in the background.
Well, but I mean, to your point, in that like for their objective of sharing information, resources, increasing efficiency, better service to the public. Part of that is sharing information like minutes so that people like us can consume it.
Yeah, so you don't know what we're talking about. And while we're talking emails, one thing I forgot to mention earlier, I want to circle back around to is just a reminder that the Whitney.com emails are all closed.
They can't be closed because they're on the website.
Closed is where I'm going to put it. They are being redirected. So if someone emails that email, it's going to go to your SWPRD.org, which should be your primary email now. And they are giving a notification that this email account has been changed. Please change it to Line or from whatever at SWPRD.org. So communication should go into your SWPRD. So even if someone sent you something on the Whitney email, it would go to your SWPRD. So please make sure you're checking that regularly because that's where communication's been recorded. We just changed it on the website. This change has taken a few more months than we thought. The point person, I know he's met with you and Jennifer. Yeah, they help you guys.
We need information on the server data so we can set it up in our mail accounts. So I need incoming server, outgoing, going servers. And you have an app?
Outlook app,
Yeah.
that's it.
Sky's set her up with an Outlook app, so it's just.
Really easy.
But Sky's made himself available to all of you, and so just reach out. He's our tech guy. He knows all this stuff. It's like,
To be clear, we don't get notifications though to our email account, like normally I would before if somebody was contacted through Park and Rec. But I think that is what you meant by notifications.
yeah, no, sorry. I just mean that someone emails you.
I wouldn't know unless I'm checking it on a regular basis. Okay, yeah, just clarifying. Yeah.
So, but if anyone from the public is trying to reach you in either email, it's going to go to your SWPRD. So that should be the one to shoot you. So
I'll just say, I love having it in a separate place,
and
not coming into my, it's really
Yeah.
nice. Silos can be good.
And Sky is really, and this is his thing. It isn't what he gets paid for with us, but it's certainly a skill set that he has that he doesn't have any focus on. So that's all I have.
There's nothing else for the good of the order. Anything else? I've covered it all. All right, and we will adjourn this March 20th meeting of Park and Recreation at, what are we at? We're at 8:16, getting out early.
Good night.
Thanks.